Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 ways to hyper scale your business. That sounds exciting. It also sounds a little scary, but without the stress. I think that's the most important part. So if you're scared now, stay scared for like 3 minutes until we figure out how to do this. And then I'm sure we'll talk you off that ledge. But I have an amazing guest to walk us through it. His name is Jon Weberg. Jon, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you as well. I appreciate it. And we're going to cover as many great things for everyone as we possibly can. Let's chop it up.
Let's see what happens. We want to hyper scale our business. So there's 2 paths, right? There's people who are perfectly content and happy with their business, and they don't really want to scale it. For those people, awesome. I love that you have that mindset. I would say listen to this with maybe some efficiencies in mind. Yeah. The other people who do want to grow their business, also awesome. But the word hyperscale, you got me on that one. How do you define hyperscale? Because that does sound a little scary.
Yeah. So it's basically just wanting to and having the ability to grow your business with a lot more profitability in mind, because high profitability ensures you can grow with your ads faster. You can train your team better. You can do a lot of different things that at scale are amazing. So being able to hyper optimize for profitability and do it across multiple different areas, because a lot of the time, from my experience working with clients and customers and stuff, people focusing on, just my ads. If my ads just perform, my business would be exceptional. If I could produce better quality leads, it would change everything. But if you really want to compete in today's market, your ads can't just perform. Like if you actually want to scale and scale fast and scale very profitably, it has to be across your follow-up, it has to be across your advertising, your lead generation, it has to be across your sales process, it has to be across everything. And that's, again, if you want to hyperscale, do it very quickly and efficiently. Some people don't, but for those of you that are eager, we'll talk through those ways to really, really, really see the growth you want in your business across basically every channel. It's called omni-channel scaling or omni-channel growth marketing. And when done correctly, it is absolutely, the money businesses start generating is perfect.
Yeah. So the one thing you said, I hope I'm not making this up, but I'm pretty sure I remember you saying this before we started recording. It was 3 ways to scale without spending extra money. So first of all, did I get that right? Second of all, what are the 3 ways?
Yes. Because a lot of businesses think it's through, if we do new creatives, which is great, that's helpful. If we do new ad creatives, that'll scale us out. Or if we hire this expert, this will help us out. But I'm interested in helping people scale without spending a ton of money to do so, because the vast majority of a business's growth doesn't come from a bunch of new things. It comes from actually improving what they already have in place. But because you're not actually doing this fine-tuning stuff, you don't see it and you don't believe it. So that's the first kind of intro to it. And then what the 3 things are is A, the activity you are doing, which obviously it seems like an obvious thing to point out, but there's a few different things we can cover on the activity you're doing, what you're doing, how you're doing it. B, I think really the follow-up process, basically everyone gets entirely wrong. Most likely if you're watching this, you aren't doing it at all, which is, we're going to fix that. And then thirdly is your actual sales process. Regardless if you're selling tires, you're selling supplements, you're an agency, you own a SaaS company, it doesn't matter. The vast majority of sales processes and funnels are either broken and or under-optimized for profitability. They're under-optimized for lifetime value of customer. They're under-optimized their checkout carts. There's so many different places they can split test and improve what they already have, that even, I believe, truly just improving follow-up, just improving sales process, or any of these things is going to literally multiply whatever your profits you're seeing. It's going to multiply if you actually do it after you're done listening.
Yeah, I love that, because it's 3 things that you're already doing, or, well, you have control over. Whether you're doing them or not is a different story, but you can very easily influence these 3 things in your own company. One thing I want to point out that you just said, though, before we dive in, I want to dive into activity. you were like, well, if you have time to listen to this 15-minute podcast, you are definitely not following up with your clients. Did you just call out the listeners of this show, John? Is that what you meant by that?
I always do, and it's because the vast majority, I always do that. And usually at the end, I have a different message too, because oftentimes we listen to podcasts, we go to events, we do all these different things. We're learning, and we never apply jack. And that's me included. And we always forget, oh, I learned this really cool gold nugget. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to record it. I'm going to put it down for later. And then you never, ever do it. And then you go back to your business and your daily schedule of what you're working on. And you go, I keep doing the exact same thing and nothing changed, because you never apply what you actually learned. So that's why I go, hey, listen to this one. You might even know it, but you just need to hear it another time to get you to actually do it. And if you haven't, hear it once and do it right away, so you're not in that upper bubble.
Yeah. So you called everybody out, but it's true. It's human nature. We all do it. So if it's one of those things, like you said, if it's important, prioritize it, make it actually happen. So we hope to drop those value bombs for you that you actually want to go implement. So John, activity. What do you mean when you say activity? Because we've had other guests on this show break down all activity is not good activity. So what do you mean when you talk about activity?
So activity is basically when you're running and operating your business on a daily basis. What are you actually doing that has a metric at the end of it, and that hopefully whatever action you are taking and time you are spending on the activity, it's almost certain you're going to get the result you're looking for, and the result's going to be exponential in what it can get accomplished. Because a lot of the times, whether it's checking emails, and I hate to use these basic examples, or going on Facebook and hyper scrolling, those are all obviously waste of time. But then a lot of what we think is a good activity to do, for example, if you're a solopreneur, you probably do a lot of lead generation yourself. And maybe you're even reaching out to people, DMing people, when what would be a much better spending of your time, investment of your time, is if you are going on podcasts. If you are getting in front of as many people as possible that can generate as many customers as possible in the shortest amount of time. So this will be a 10, 20, whatever minute podcast, 10, 20 minutes to generate, let's just say it's 5, 10, 20 customers. That's an immensely incredible expenditure and investment of my time versus doing almost literally anything else. And what I advise people to simply do is think about the shortest duration, but most customer-driven activities you can take and make those the entire focus of your business day. The vast majority of time should be spent getting more leads, getting more people through the life and blood of your business, which is generating leads, interest, and customers. So podcasts right now especially is huge. Speaking at events, I'll be speaking in Budapest, Hungary at Affiliate World. Shout out Affiliate World, which is going to be sick. Things like that can generate, B2B business or B2C business, dozens or hundreds of customers, maybe even more. There'll be 7,500 people there. I was able to sneak in some of these events and masterminds you can speak at, by the way. You can literally send a DM, have a conversation, use a little persuasion, speak for free, or they'll pay you to speak. I snuck into this one and it worked out. It's going to be a huge business deal for me. As well, making partnerships, whether they're bigger B2B kind of partnerships that are mutual, or whether instead of like running ads or chasing customers individually, you can also try to recruit and focus on recruiting affiliates. Affiliates can bring in over time hundreds to thousands of customers a piece. Why would I ever try to find one customer when I can do any of these activities that generate tons? And the same thing with anyone, whether you have a team that's doing outbound or you name it, you or whoever's in charge of lead generation or to just operating a business should only be doing what it's going to solve as many problems as possible, get the biggest results possible in the shortest amount of time, and that has scale potential too. So for example, speaking at Affiliate World, which I didn't pay a penny for, speaking for Affiliate World could be business partnerships, which could each individually generate dozens to hundreds of customers, plus individual customers, plus brand. It does multiple different things at once. And it's just, a few days a week. So that's the main thing with activity, is just focus on bigger result producing activities that take up less time, and also get extremely efficient at landing those activities or doing those activities. So making sure that when you're trying to speak for different podcasts or do these different things, that you're just focusing just on that one activity, zero distractions, phone off or silent, Nothing else going on. You're just focusing on that because this is going to bring you the largest amount of business possible, the shortest amount of actual effort. And that done, especially in a team, if each team member is doing that at scale, fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, I mean, that's going to have a huge payoff probably pretty quickly too. But when let's use podcasting because that's the medium we're on right now. So
Right.
As a matter of fact, that's part of our lead generation strategy at What If, not this podcast, guesting on other podcasts, much like you're doing right here. And for us, we realized that in the beginning, it was very hard to find a podcast, apply to it. Some of them require a pre-interview to vet you as a guest. Others, you just go right to the recording, and then you have to do the recording, and then it's like sometimes up to 4 months until that episode is there. Full disclosure, between the time I'm speaking to Jon now and you hearing it in your ear holes, it's about 3.5 months because we're that backed up with guests. So Jon, surprise, that's the first time you're hearing about that. But for us, what became the bottleneck there was identifying, okay, not identifying, but going through that process of, we know this works. We know it's a great leverage point for us. There's very minimal input, huge output. But how do you streamline that to make it a consistent effort on your team? And what I'm getting at is we didn't know that in the beginning. So from day one of deciding, okay, let's try podcasts to day, let's just say 87, to when we started to see results. I mean, what's that process to test a channel, test an activity, to use your wording here, and then build a process around it and get more efficient so that you can scale it? Because that's, I think, where people drop off. They could easily say day 33, this isn't working. You haven't even recorded the episode yet. Like, of course it's not working because it hasn't, it's not a thing yet.
You want to automate and systematize as much as possible. So when deciding any process you're going to do, and this involves all activity, not just podcasting, but you want to decide, okay, what's the overall goal of what we're actually doing with this activity? A, it is to generate leads. Okay. So how do I ensure I get in front of I'll go through a bunch of different things, but it's a series of different things to get to what you're talking about. So who do I want to get in front of? What's my message to them? How are we going to monetize it, etc. And then actually lay out, like, in a physical framework, whether it's in a Google Doc, whether it's in a Google Sheet, whether it's in a slide share, something, all of that information. And then the process of getting onto podcasts. So deciding whether it's going to be manual outreach, whether it's going to be a podcast matching service, whether it's going to be any of these different mediums. What is the best process to focus on to actually get on a podcast? And if you want to automate and systematize that, you want to use tools, services, different things. So, for example, I believe there's matchmaker.fm is a great podcast matching service, connects podcasts with podcast hosts. Insanely easy and incredible for getting onto a podcast or getting podcast very, very quickly. B, Podmatch. Podmatch is absolutely amazing for landing on podcasts or getting podcast guests. So once you've
Podmatch real quick, that's how we met. We love Podmatch here.
Yes, absolutely. So once you decide the process you're going to use, once you decided the material you'll need to enact that process. So how are we going to need? What's the message we need to generally use for connecting with each of the podcast hosts? And go step by step each of these different things, and then with whatever software, tools, or whether it's someone on your team, it doesn't matter. Try to figure out how can we do this process of getting onto these podcasts in a short amount of time, really efficiently, without spending a lot of time going back and forth, etc. So with that point, then it's using the software to do that, or manually doing it, and then B, split testing and seeing, okay, with X or Z message, what's the rate that we get received or a positive response for going on podcasts. And then Z worked better. Let's always use this one. And then you're also becoming more efficient at the activity and different pieces of the activity itself. So that's probably the best process, is just really fine tune your message, what you need in order to get the activity done. And if possible, which in some cases it's not always that easy or possible, try to automate and systematize and lay out every part of the structure of how you're going to do the activity.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other side of that too is, I know we're spending a lot of time on activity, but it's so crucial because a lot of times when business owners come to us and they say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm spending too much time in my business, I want to be a business owner. which is the exact thing we help with from operator to owner.
Yep.
You need to be doing some of this stuff, but it's for how long,
Yep.
until you outsource it, until you delegate it. What's that process look like? So this is I know it's a sticking point for a lot of people.
Yep.
So we went through the podcast example. But let's say you do that. You start to delegate, you start to outsource some of these things. Obviously, you have to show up and be on the podcast. We're not going to tell you to outsource that. But some of these other things, you're talking about getting on stages, strategic partnerships. There's a million other ways. Running ads is another way to get leads. But how many of those do you introduce at one time? Because the podcast thing, let's just say, use that same example. From day 1 to day 87, we have no data, but we know we want to do this strategy. Okay, at what point do we introduce, you know what, let's bring on strategic partnerships as an activity that we want to do to get more leads? How much is too much, and how quick is too quick to bring on other activities?
Right. So it's just something a lot of businesses struggle with, because there's so many different opportunities for what you can do, how you can do it. You know, like saying, what do you decide to do? Like, okay, we're going to launch a new strategy for getting leads. Are we going to do podcasts? Are we going to do, you name it? How long is it going to be that we actually test it out? I always believe in all of them work. Absolutely all of them work for you. You can find in your industry, in your niche, I guarantee it, there's someone who's doing exactly that and they're making a killing. So it's more of not choosing one. It's more of stick with one and hyper focus just on that one. Hyper focus on, we're going to make if we were to go on podcasts, how would we get on them at the highest rate possible? How would we entertain and educate and entice the guests in the best way possible? How would we get along with the host and partnerships with the host as much as possible, and hyper focus within that main activity, and just choose. It basically doesn't matter. Choose one channel, and then hyper focus on one and see how it can support your other channels in case those other ones do work out. So for example, if I'm going to do podcasting, of course, every podcast I'm on, I'm going to be sharing and syndicating to my email list. I'm going to be sharing and syndicating to YouTube, to Facebook, to Twitter, to every other social media platform I have. I'm going to be doing blog posts about it. And then from my main activity, I have all these other places I can syndicate content or information or whatever to. And then what you do is you identify, okay, as I'm focusing on one mainstream, it could be ads, it could be many different things, which of these other ones are also picking up? Because once I've mastered and this one's doing exceptionally well, now me or someone on my team can spend time getting the second one to pick up. And then as you do that across all of your channels, you become and you start to have an omni-channel brand that generates leads and customers across every single thing you do. That's what big brands actually do over time. But again, it starts with hyper focusing on one first, because regardless of what you're going to do, you're spending your time and money and you don't know if it's going to work unless you give it a try. But if you want to real quickly increase the chance of running ads or doing partnerships or doing any of these things hyper successfully immediately, you have to kind of copy and duplicate, customize towards your business, but copy and duplicate whoever is the absolute most successful in your space already. So if you want to run ads, look at your biggest competitor. What are they doing? Because they're running ads at a profit for a reason. And they're going to keep those ads they're running for a year, 2 years, 3 years. You want ads very similar to those because they work in your market. You want an affiliate partnership idea? Look at who's doing affiliate partnerships. Again, whether you sell paintings, whether you sell trees, whatever it is you do, make sure you're working with not creating things from scratch. Because the reason why you would want to do that as much as you want to, because like I'm a creative person. I love to create all my own sales processes, follow-up, etc. Until you either A, become exceptionally good at it, or you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend testing if things are going to work in the first place. It is way more cost-effective, time-effective, activity-effective to use what already is 90% pretty perfect.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this episode, I thought this has been great because that's an area I see people just spin their wheels on so often. I've been guilty of that in the past too. I'm no exception to the rule here. But you have two other ways to help grow your business and hyper scale it, which we did not talk about. So where should people go to learn more about you and those other two ways to hyper scale their business? For sure.
So if you want to learn more about me, just go to jonweberg.com, no H, JonWeberg.com, and you'll kind of get a bigger grasp of what I do, who I am. I'm kind of just authentic, fun dude who kind of likes to help people grow their businesses. And if you want to either A, start your own business, grow your business, B, or C, sell your business, you're at that point, go to profitalize.com, which is my education / training platform to help you wherever you're at in your entrepreneurial journey. It's there to help you move to that next stage. Because the reason we're doing this is because people need help. People need actionable, real, genuine, quick ways for them to either grow, start, or sell their business, because there's so many different people to learn from out there. There's so many different resources you can use. I always find it's better to pick and choose one mentor, one activity, one, you name it, and hyper focus and try it out and see how it performs, because you don't know unless you at least give it a shot. So I suggest using Profitalize. You guys are free to use whatever you want.
I love it. Jon, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a great guest.
Thank you as well. I appreciate you.
Now, I can't let you leave without the most important question. P.S. If you're not watching and you are listening, the website's in the show notes down below. Everything Jon said in the show notes down below. But Jon, last question, what I think is the most important question, because of what we said at the beginning of the episode, where you listen to podcasts, you get that gold nugget, you love it, and you do nothing with it. Well, I found a way, I think, to overcome that for our listeners, and it's leaving them with a question that they could think about. So we believe at What If, powerful questions will get you powerful answers. So I want to know from you to the listener, we talked a lot about activities. What activities should you be doing to focus on hyper growth for your business? And of course, the two other ways that you mentioned that you have. But for this conversation, for what we talked about today, what is the powerful question you want the listener to ask themselves until they get the answer that's going to actually help them grow their business?
What is stopping you from doing everything you already know will 1000% get you more results in your business? What's actually keeping you from, because it's not running ads. If you wanted to learn how to run ads, you could go do that. If we give ourselves all these different excuses. So ask yourself, what's actually keeping you from doing what you probably already know a lot of these things, but you haven't implemented them. And I won't answer it for you, but it could be someone you know. It's probably not something else outside. It's probably something internal that you're pretty familiar with.
Yeah, look in the mirror. I think that person might be the one stopping you. But no, that's a very important question. And that's usually what holds people back from implementing things they hear. So I love it, Jon. Thank you for that. And for you watching and listening, step 1, ask yourself that question. Step 2, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. I love bringing these episodes to you and these awesome guests 5 days a week to help you grow your business. You share it with your friends. If you get some value from these episodes, I want to share it with more and more people to help businesses grow the right way. Let's get away from the hustle culture and all the scams out there on the internet. So subscribe, share it with a friend, and we want to keep seeing you in the comment section down below. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.